Hi guys, it's Blackie. Alright, today we're going to talk about modification. Actually, it's an improvement. We're all aware of the quick deploy ridgeline. Okay? That's ridgeline that's already got your connectors put onto it to hook a tarp, and it's a given length. It's ready to go, so you can just pull it out and set it up. Boom. All familiar with that. Well, as y'all that watch my channel and recall, this past Sunday I did a pretty good video on talking with my mentor Francis McGowan, Grouch, and he taught me so much. Well, the first time I ever saw a quick deploy ridgeline was Francis was using it, and that's because Francis had been in Force Recon in Vietnam and had done a lot of stuff behind the lines. He worked what we call bright light, which is where they went in looking for crash pilots and stuff like that, either to recover the body or just to document, you know. So he went across the wire into enemy territory quite a bit. And so they would set up tarps, or excuse me, set up their ponchos in a certain way so that in total darkness they could take it out and deploy it without making a lot of muss or fuss. So they rolled it in a certain way. Their ridgeline they were going to use was set up a certain way, so there was no fumbling in the dark. See, so that's where he learned it. Well, when he and I got together and we'd go hiking, and we'd come to a place to set up for the night or whatever, we'd pick a place, walking, oh, I'll set up here, and okay, I'm going to set up over here. And it seemed like I would just take my pack off and clear around for maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and I'd turn around and he's already got his tarp up, he's got his hammock up, he's sitting there against a tree smoking his pipe, he's set up. You know, it's like he was done. And that used to frustrate the fool out of me, because it made me look like a pilgrim, like I didn't know what I was doing, because I was fumbling around like a kid in the dark trying to get set up. Well, he had a lot more experience than me. But it was a pride point to me that I wanted to be able to set up quickly. And I tried going faster, and and it just didn't make any difference. Until finally on one of the trips, when we got there, I didn't set up camp. I sat down and watched him instead. I didn't get up and go do all this. We're getting here? Right. I dropped my pack and I sat down and I watched him. And he pulled out his quick deploy ridgeline, click, click, and then he pulled out his tarp, which had been folded in a certain way, and that's what I'm about to show you. And he draped it over the line, hook, hook, zoop, and his tarp was up and pulled out his 4 corners. He was done. It was super fast and efficient. It took time to take it down and put it back in this configuration. But once it was set up in this configuration, it went up much faster. So, if you're going to be in one of those situations where inclement weather or whatever, and I'm going to need to set up my tarp quickly so that whenever I'm making the transition from being in my rain gear with my waterproof pack to setting up, maybe it's howling rain, this allows me to set up quicker in that little slack moment when it's not pouring so hard, or the rain's on the way and I need to get a tarp up quickly. This may be a skill of how to set a tarp up that'll pay benefits to you. Now, let's talk about one other point at the same time. And I'm using this for a representation. You have your tent stake, okay? And this is one of the awkward parts that we always run into with a tarp, is how do you do the stakes? Do you leave them hooked to it? Do you not? The cords, man, the cords are spaghetti. They're everywhere. What are we going to do? Here's a way to make it efficient, okay? Whatever tent stake you're going to use, make sure it's got a hole in it, okay? So I'm going to take my line and I'm going to go through that hole, and I'm simply going to tie it off to the stake. Just something simple, nothing earth-shaking. Okay? Now I'm going to take the excess part of the line and I'm going to wrap it around the stake. Nice and neat. Up here at the top, coil it up. just like that. Now on this other end, I'm going to tie a large enough bowline knot, okay? Why, what I say large enough? Because I want to be able to pass the stake through it and all that thing. So I'm going to come up here, I'm going to roll up, I'm going to roll up a little further. The bunny comes out of the hole, goes around the tree, and goes back in the hole. Those of you who tied bowlines know what I'm talking about. And then we're going to pull it down tight. Why bowline? Easy to get out. Now slip the loop in it. Okay? Now, what I do to store it is I simply roll it around tight like that, hook it, wrap it around the top of the stake, and that's how I'm going to store my stakes with this line already wrapped. I'm going to carry 4 stakes like this, and when I put them into whatever storage medium I'm carrying, I'm going to alternate it. So it's going to be two wrap ends this way and 2 wrap ends that way. 2 points that way, 2 points that way. That's why it's not so bulky, okay? Now, why do it this way? Well, what I'm going to do to attach it is I'm going to unroll. I'm going to take that loop and go through the grommet in the tarp, and then I'm going to put the tent stake through it like that and pull it up so it's hooked to my tarp. Now I unwind to where I need and stake it in the ground. No knots, no tensioning. Simply pull it out, put it in. If I want to tighten it up, I go around one more time. If I want to loosen it up, I go around one more time. By putting it at that kind of angle right there to the load like that, it ain't going to come undone. And I can anchor my stake in place and have all my line right there. Easy peasy. When I take it up, pull it up, spiral it up, come up, and take it back off of the tarp. Now all my guy lines and stuff are ready to go right there without any muss or fuss. If you get fancy and you get where you can do like that and you can hook it over an end, even better. Now let me get my ridgeline up and I'll show you how we set up the tarp for this system. Okay, I've got my ridgeline up right here. Now what I'm going to do to set this up is I'm going to take my tarp, I'm going to make sure that I am on the correct side, facing outward. I'm going to put my tarp up and over the top. Just like that. Now, your tarp will have the 2 anchor points at the top grommet or whatever, that you're going to hook to the ridge line. We are using prusik knots with the soft shackles to connect to that. Okay? So on this end, we're going to go ahead and connect the 1 soft shackle in place. Now that that one's attached, I'm going to take this one and just simply pull it out. So now my tarp is in the configuration it would be in when I would set it up. Okay, let's be clear. That end is attached, this end is not, right? Now I'm going to take this end and I'm going to take it all the way back underneath and hook it to that same. So it's like the tarp's doubled in half, okay? Now I find my center point and pull it out just like that. And got my that end. Get close up to that right quick. Okay, here's the first end I anchored. Here's the other end I pulled back under. I'm gonna leave myself a little space right there, and I'm gonna anchor this one right now just to keep it from moving around, okay? Now what we're doing is we're going to, when we fold this up, we'll have this anchor point and this anchor point on the middle on the outside, so that when I pull it just goes and opens up. See, that's what I'm looking for. Unfolds just like an umbrella. Now, anchor it right like that. So I'm already hooked to my ridge line right there. Okay. Now, I have already pulled the tarp kind of tight that way. Now we're going to do the folding. I pull the tarp this way until it's tight on both the bottom and the top. And I take the tarp and I fold it over, say about 3 inches. Like that. Pull to me, roll it again. Pull to me, roll it again. About every 3 inches. I'm going to roll this tarp up. Now, of course, silk nylon is never going to be easy, especially when you got a little bit of a breeze. And we're not going to do this every time. This is when you're trying to show off how fast you can set up a camp. This is when you want a quick deploy tarp ready to go, so that I can quickly deploy this faster than I would conventionally for whatever reason. Just keep rolling and taking it down. Roll, take it down. Trying to keep your two bottom ends the same length. Don't let them get real odd to each other. Okay? It's going to end up look like it's snake skin. And yes, snake skins can be a very fast way to do this as well. Now here's my first connector. Okay? I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to reach inside and I'm going to slide that cord out here. Okay? So now, here is my connect. Let me get you a little close up of that. Okay. Now here's the right hand end. It's come out from underneath now, and it's now attached to my ridgeline. I pull that out snug. I've got my left one out here snug. I've got an additional loop on here. I'm going to take that and run that all the way down here to the end. Out of the way. Now my tarp is rolled up nice and narrow. But notice what's happening whenever I grab this. I throw it over the ridge line. Drop you down where you can see me a little bit better. There we go. So I'm now going to take this end with the cords on this one, and I'm going to roll it up just like so. And then I would use the ridge line to wrap this up. So this is how I'd pull it out of my pack. I would come over here to this end and hook up my ridge line right quick using a toggle, a Marline spike hitch right quick. Just loop it around the tree, go up and stick a stick in, pull it tight, drop it, it'll still be rolled up, walk to that end, make the trucker's hitch and pull it tight, boom. And then all I got to do is grab this and start walking. And it unfurls, already in position, right? I can adjust left or right once I get it into position. But with this, by rolling it like this, especially if I've got a stuff sack that I can go ahead and put this into. Now this one, like I said, already had the cords hooked to for another configuration. But for rapid deployment, I would stuff it into my stuff sack just like this. In fact, let me get the sack. Okay, I just put the end into the stuff sack like so. Get it going, grab the other one, do the same job, stuff it in like so, start rolling and stuffing in just like so. Takes up the same amount of space, but as you can see, once I get it up here, there's my two already connected. So I would unhook my ridge line and put that in the very top. So when I take this out, I unhook the end of it, open it up, I grab my ridge line, just stand up. The bag drops off. Let me show you the deployment now. So as I said, I would come up, I would open the top of my bag, I'd pull out my ridge line. I'd come around here to this bow line, I'd go around the tree and put a marline spike hitch in, boom. I would then drop the bag, and I would walk the cord down to this end and go ahead and tie a trucker's hitch. Boom. I then turn around, make sure it's out of the bag. I grab this knot and start walking. And my tarp's up that quick. All in how it deploys, see? Instead of it being all wadded up, and I got, okay, now which way does it go? It's already set. All I do is I pull that ridge line out and I hook it, drop the bag and walk to the other end and make a trucker's hitch. Boom! I pull it tight. I come back, I pull it completely out of the bag, I grab the one that goes that way and I just start walking. It unfurls. Now, with the tent stakes, now with the tent stakes set up, I've already got a dry place right there, right underneath it. All I gotta do is take my tent stakes, hook to an end, pull them out, stick it in the ground. 1, 2, 3, 4. How fast is that? A lot faster than arguing with it, ain't it? The thing that causes the problem is of putting it up. And it's really not that bad once you figure out, sorry for the aircraft guys, once you figure out how to do the setup, it's not so bad, okay? So let me redo this right quick just to show you. I'm going to grab this end and I'm going to take it underneath. And I'm going to take it underneath all the way back to this end. Stopping just short of it. Now I grab my center of my tarp and I pull it out. Boom. Is it tight on the bottom? Yes. Tight on the top? Yes. Start rolling. Each time pull toward me. That's the trick to it. Roll it and pull it toward you. And I'm only doing like a handful at a time. Making sure you can still see me. Yep. And there is my other connector right there. I pull it out on the ridge line where I can see it. I take the two ends and I put them into the bag. Now this doesn't take that much longer now, does it? Once you know the technique, the quick deploy tarp. I got to do is disconnect that line, fold it up, stuff it in the top. I'm done. But when I want to deploy quickly, this is set up for a quick deploy tarp. All I got to do is pull my already attached ridge line out of the bag, go to the first tree, go around the tree, and since my ridge line is up there with those two prusicks, I can adjust the line right now. It's not tangled up in the tarp. And that's always been the problem of rolling it up with it in the tarp. Well, what if I need to adjust in to make more room to go around this tree? I can't do that. You can with this because it's just the prusik knots. I can scoop more line to go around the tree. And then I do my marline spike hitch. And then I just walk to the other end, boom, tie up a trucker's hitch, I'm done. Grab the end and walk. We're done. Well, we're not done, but you know what I mean. Tarp's up, boom, in seconds. Then I put out the stakes. And let me show you that marline spike hitch up close. Okay, here is the whole thing with the ridge line in it. Notice I leave just a teeny little loop sticking out. Okay, I open it up and out comes my loop, my prusik knot, and there's the rest of my ridge line, and there's my connectors. Comes out first, right? I just drop the line down, I go up and I go around the tree, and I push the line through the loop, and I take a pretty robust green stick and put into it, and you saw that into position, and you have the anchor point. Now I can just start walking with this end and let this spiral out as I walk to the other end. Super quick, right? Now I go to the other end. When I pull this tight, right there's my first connector, right there's my second connector. Walk to the end. We're done. Okay guys, I hope you've enjoyed this content. This is a little more advanced than the regular bushcraft stuff I do. I'm going to start throwing some of these in for tips and tricks that I've learned over the years that I use to deploy. And that was the big lesson I learned from Francis, was sitting and watching him. Because it was not as much what he was doing, it was how he was doing it. Where I was pulling out my tarp, which invariably had my lines just everywhere all tangled up. And I'm having to put up a ridge line, and then I'm spending 5 minutes untangling the tarp to put the tarp up. Where he just went, drop, zip, 4 stakes, sit down, done. Very, very quickly. He deployed his hammock the same way. The 2 ends of the hammock, it rolled up. So all he did was he went to the first tree, tied it, and walked to the other one as it unfurled behind him and tied. He was done. Quick deploy. That's the way to go. Hope you've enjoyed this, guys. If you have, please hit that like, share, and subscribe button before you go. I'd really appreciate it. Until next time, I'm Blackie, wishing you safe journeys. Have a great day, guys.